There was a psychologist that said, bring all your training to the room or to the door when you're about to see a patient. And once you enter the room, you leave it all outside the door. And so in a way, it's saying with art as well, that you bring all of your experience and your training to the canvas. But the moment of the piece, you just let it go, and the rest will follow. My name is Miguel Estevez. I'm a psychiatrist and artist, visual artist here in St. Petersburg, Florida. The worst place to start a great painting is to try and paint a great painting. So it's really, the process for me is almost getting outside my head rather than true intention. I think it's about, not about detaching yourself from your cognitions, but more about using a different part of your brain that's more procedural and less directive. And so when I start a painting, it's mainly just putting down layers and seeing what happens without any type of thought about what's happening. And then it'll be boring for a long time. You won't discover anything, and then after a while things will start to pop up in the process, and then that's when you start that's when you have to have an eye of which direction to go. It's a different way than having a true intentional kind of idea of a painting. So it's almost like I don't know what I'm doing per se in the beginning, but my direction is clear. There's this idea of, having a square, putting the square up, putting the rectangle up, putting even the circle up, and saying, I have to fill this space. That's been done for years and years, and why do you have to confine yourself to this area? And the way that I like to work is also that I might not find everything interesting about the particular canvas or the particular piece, and so I'll cut it up. And so I'll cut up what I think is interesting, and maybe even cut up 1,000,000 different pieces. The last show I had about 10 different pieces from one large canvas. And so it's not about filling the space because this is what was required of you. It's saying, find what's interesting and then tailor it to what you want aesthetically. What I usually do is the materials that I usually go to kind of a construction or supply center, get huge pieces of aluminum, and then cut them to size that I want, usually 4x6, 4x5, and then start working on a flat surface using squeegees. I use a bunch of different layers, and then oftentimes use water to erase or to take off some of the layers, and then a scraper as well. And then I'll just keep adding and subtracting until the piece is finished. The way that I see the world is a little bit different also, I think, than, or at least my eye catches things in ways that are not so obvious and are important to me, which is basically beauty in unseen or unexpected places. So I'll find a dumpster that will have an interesting image. I'll find concrete that has interesting kind of distressed looks to them. Cuba is where my father's from, and the tragic beauty of Cuba kind of draws almost the beautiful but sad kind of aesthetic to Cuba and its crumbling stage, but seeing the beauty of it, or at least some of the walls, I think are just gorgeous. So I will look at, my wife will say, look at these fireworks, and I'm off like looking at, the pilings that are there to control the crowds and finding interesting spaces or interesting kind of colors and shapes in that way. And that's always interesting to me. I think in many ways it's interesting that the kind of distressed look is actually becoming more in vogue now, and it may be because it's the last kind of thing we have to hold on to is material. Everything is becoming technical, everything is becoming digitized, and so there's really nothing kind of tangible in our world now, even paper. And so I think the idea of having art, having a piece of art and seeing it as kind of organic and tangible is interesting to me. So I've even started, the last probably 5 years, started with using rust, painting iron onto canvas, onto aluminum, and then oxidizing it, and then creating a kind of a rust form. And I've used different patinas as well on zinc and copper to create different mottled effects on the painting.